Greetings, my dear friends. The year 2020 was virtually lost from our lives. It was known for the Wuhan virus, the virus that brought the world to its knees. Over 180 million people affected, 3.9 million dead, trillions of dollars of economic loss. It also heralded the culmination of the peaceful rise of China. The declaration and the intent of China from being a peaceful rise to a very aggressive China with its aspirations and intentions was very clear. The Chinese aggression and arm twisting of the world, unprecedented in many ways, whether it was the global institutions, the WHO, the United Nations, or closer home in the South China Sea, arm twisting Japan, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and don't forget Taiwan. Various nations face the brunt of China, from India to Australia, New Zealand to Europe, and the US. The pushback to China also started here. The year 2021 heralded the economic recovery post the Wuhan virus. However, there was one common factor. The common factor was the continued aggression by China, earning its name the global bully. China started very actively seeking to dethrone the US as a numero uno global power, using all its might. China today is at inflection point, and this is as good an occasion as any to review China, see whether it is really speaking, troubling the world, or is it troubled from within. Welcome to Chax Simplifies, your channel to demystify and simplify complex geopolitical issues. I, Commander Chakrapani, or Chax, I'm your host. The geopolitical changes that have taken place in the past few months, especially after the withdrawal of the United States from Afghanistan, have had a significant impact globally, especially on India. It is indeed a very perplexing question. Why has China opened up so many frontiers against itself across various spectrum? Therefore, let's take a view at the expansionist China, its moves. We have done a bit of this introspection, and I will provide the link in the description box of my earlier videos which talk about these aspects. In this episode, we will take a look at the new happenings, both inside and outside of China, and how or why it is driving China to take so many pangas across the globe. China, incidentally, is a very, very interesting case study. Legacy plays a very important role, especially the legacy of Chairman Mao. Broadly, what we will do is we will examine the internal situation in China first, understand where is China coming from, what are its fears, how is it seeking to address these fears internally. From here, we will move on to the external situation to determine how China determines or interprets its internal complications, internal dynamics, and how they impinge on its behavior in the external world. We'll also do a bit of crystal ball gazing and see what lies in the future. Let's start with the powerhouse first, the Communist Party of China and the persona of Xi Jingpin himself. We will move on to the demography of China, take a look at its economic, financial, and the other security issues, starting from food security to water security. The Communist Party of China and the people of China have some sort of a compact, an agreement. The people of China have traded their personal freedom in exchange of economic and financial security. In other words, the people work hard, they stay apolitical, and they stay silent. The Communist Party of China rules. Therefore, it is very important for the Communist Party to be able to deliver on this agreement. The Communist Party set itself two goals which are called as the Centennial Goals. By the year of 2021, that is 100 years of the formation of the Communist Party of China, they wanted to build a moderately prosperous society in all respects. This essentially meant that China will more or less double its economic, the income of its people, improve the lives of all its citizens, particularly of those who are at or below the poverty line. By the year 2049, that is the 100 years of the formation of People's Republic of China, China wants to build a modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, and harmonious. A very nice sounding term, if you will, for being a global hegemon. These two goals form the guiding principles as far as all actions of China and Xi Jingpin himself are concerned. Xi Jinping came out with what he calls as his mantra or his vision. His vision has two components: common prosperity, making every Chinese citizen prosperous, or rich and powerful. Tame the rich and powerful, the products of hybrid communism that happened in the previous few decades. Harvest the wealth of the elite to buy the support of the poor. The second mantra is regeneration. Make China a global superpower, bring back pride to the people of China. You will find that the CCP or the CPC, and Xi made a report card, and in this report card, they went ahead and said, we have doubled the GDP of China by the year 2020. Well, they have. They have established control over Hong Kong. They have damned the one nation, two policies for good, and have amalgamated Hong Kong despite reservations, protests, etc. In the South China Sea, they have partially achieved their aim. However, there are a few stumbling blocks: the Quad, the AUKUS, and of course, the Philippines showing a fair amount of spine. They have cornered a large number of global resources, whether it is converting Africa into the breadbasket of China, or cornering oil or rare earths or anything else you could think of. It has established itself as a leader in high tech, especially in 5G, artificial intelligence, and yet it faces a bit of a pushback from the globe, especially with respect to its security concerns as far as the Chinese giants are concerned. The grand success, what they call the grand success, of the BRI or the Belt and Road Initiative has happened. However, bankruptcy is giving a bit of a headache here. Taiwan is the ultimate prize. This ultimate prize is somehow evading China, and therefore it is very, very important not just to the Communist Party of China, but to Xi Jinping personally to be able to identify and tell people he has achieved all of it. Right? Because Xi Jinping is the architect of all that happened in the last 7 years or so. So, where is Xi today? Xi Jinping has consolidated his control since coming to power in 2012. He solidified his hold over the entire country. He heads every major institution of power: the party, the presidency, national security, or military. He is the chairman of everything that happens in China. His name and ideology has found its place enshrined in the Constitution of China, the party manifesto, and yes, in the school curriculum also. Xi Jinping thought and vision is a part of the curriculum. His power is absolute. He is probably more powerful than Chairman Mao himself. But in the middle of all this power, does he face a threat? Internally, there have been a reasonably large number of rumblings within the Communist Party of China. On the 14th of September, a Chinese website reported that there was a plot to assassinate a top CPC leader. There are speculations that this top leader was Xi Jinping himself. In the party magazine article was published by Xi Jinping himself, and this was the article in a party journal called the Koisha. The party commands the gun. This article found itself repeating over 4 times in the next 1 month. Why? Did the party or Xi Jinping really think there was a threat? Don't forget, the Western theatre commander, presently Wang Haiyang, took over on the 4th of September. His predecessor lasted only 2 months. In the last 1 year, there have been 4 such changes. Very unique, very strange. Don't also forget, the the theatre commander of the Central Theatre was also changed, and Xi Jinping got his loyalist as the theatre commander here. Xi Jinping is a new emperor, the emperor who is using all types of tools at his disposal, from oppression to tyranny. He is projecting the dream of empire building and the Chinese growth. The Chinese have arrived. He has carried out purges and eliminated virtually all threats, perceived or real. For example, he got after what is called as the personality cult. Anyone who was getting big, take Jack Ma. In 2020 of October, he forced Jack Ma to postpone his $37 billion IPO. Jack Ma went missing for over 3 months thereafter, and now is rarely heard, even rarely seen. In February 2021, a new set of regulations came up by the Communist Party that wiped out $1 trillion from the Chinese tech stocks. In July 21, the biggest ride-hailing app, Didi, was removed from all app stores in China. In August 21, private tuitions, a multi-billion-dollar economy industry, was banned. In September 2021, education curriculum was changed, and like I said, Xi Jinping thought and vision entered the school curriculum. In 21 September, again he banned all reality shows that ape the West and curbed all the online games to show an acceptable face. Acceptable to whom? The Communist Party of China, obviously. And very obviously, by extension, Xi Jinping himself. This acceptable face of China had to be there as a part of all, even online games. A multi-billion-dollar actress, Zhao Wei, vanished from the face of China entirely, as though she never existed. Xi Jingpin and CPC are virtually redrawing every aspect of life and business in China. Let's take a look at the demography first. Now, in November 2020, the population of China was approximately 1.4 billion. 91.1% of these were Han Chinese. Of the 8.9% of the minorities, the Zhuang is about 1.3%, Manchu 0.8%, Uyghur and Hui Muslims together about 1.7%, Tibetan about 0.4%. On the other hand, the population of China is aging rapidly. It is estimated by 2045, over 45% of Chinese will be above the year of 65 years of age. Contrast this with India, where that figure is less than 30%. The fertility ratio in China has dropped as a result of the one-child policy and thereafter various other policy changes that have happened rapidly. It is today at approximately 1.2. The replacement level is considered to be 2.1. The workforce of China peaked in 2010. It has been declining at the rate of 0.6% annually thereafter. Yet, surprise, surprise, 94% of Chinese live to the east of a line between two cities, Haihe and Tengchong. Unique and surprising. Most of China, that is to the west of this line, is virtually uninhabited. Xenophobia is at an all-time high. The supremacy of Han Chinese at the cost of minorities. Don't forget, the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang have borne the brunt. So have the Tibetans in Tibet or the Mongols in Outer Mongolia. They are all subject to re-education lessons. The Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang province, which are approximately 9 million people, about 0.8% of the population, they are being butchered. Their legacy, their practices being decimated. The Hui Muslims, again about 9 million people, 0.8% of the population, are in the Kangi province. In the province, they form approximately 16% of the population. These Muslims have accepted Sinicization of even the Islam and the Quran and accept the Han supremacy, yet they face Sinicization of even their mosques. Whether it is the removal of Arab style architecture and replacing it with the Chinese style at whichever mosque you could name. The Tibetans, 5 million of them, or just about 0.4% of the population, have also faced persecution, and these are all very well documented cases. Tibet is the lifeline for China. China cannot survive without Tibet because all the rivers of China take birth here. Therefore, it is important for China to keep a hold on Tibet, and it is ensuring, or it is trying to ensure at least, that the next Dalai Lama will be someone of its choice. The Chinese Communist Party, like I said, had this compact with the citizens. Therefore, sustaining consumer spending, especially in the present day of high debt, is getting to be very difficult. Debts have risen, and some say the internal debt of China is as much as 300% of its GDP, or it's at over $4 trillion. Household debt has crossed the safe threshold limit of 60% of GDP back in the year 2020. The economy, which was fueled by the infrastructure boom, is now looking at doom. The collapse of Evergrande and now three more large infrastructure companies have come to default. Over 25 corporates in China have defaulted on corporate borrowings of approximately $18 billion. Many of these are state owned corporations. As a result of the Wuhan virus fallout and the global anger against China, there is now an excess capacity and less offtake. All of this leads to job loss. Don't forget, there are over 300 companies that have left China in the last few months, leading to tens of thousands of people rendering jobless. The BRI and its effect on economy is significant. China has lent money across, especially to very suspect regimes, regimes which nobody else would lend to. 35% of all BRI projects are facing setbacks, scandals, corruption cases, and the Chinese banks are running out of money to be able to fund more of them. 43 countries owe $385 billion to China. 42 of these 43 countries have public debt due to the BRI in excess of 10% of their own GDP. The future of this debt is uncertain. Much of this debt is off the books as per William and Mary Global Research Institute. Therefore, you have China taking over assets of countries. For example, Gwadar has been leased for 40 years. The Obok port in Djibouti for 10 years. The Hanam Tota port for 99 years. Tajikistan has ceded over 1,000 square kilometers of its territory to China. Laos has handed over its power grid to China. Yet, these assets don't give you any returns. Over and above all of this, in April-May of 2020, a fake gold scam emerged. What came out of it is approximately 4.2% of all gold reserves of China are fake. King Gold Jewelry Incorporated at Wuhan was at the center of the scam. As a result of the economic and financial situation, unemployment in China is rising. People's income is falling. All of it leading to dissatisfaction. We have one more crisis that is blowing up into China, the energy crisis. On one hand, oil and gas imports are rising. These imports should peak approximately around 2030 to 2035. China is dependent on the South China Sea for its supplies. BRI was a brainwave to be able to rid itself of its dependence, but BRI itself is facing problems. Coal, well, many of coal fields of China have got flooded in the floods that happened in the recent past. Chinese and coal prices have increased dramatically in the last few months. China's largest supplier of coal is Australia. And Australia has said, sorry, but no thank you. We are not going to be exporting coal to you. China, therefore, has faced multiple power cuts to the extent of even traffic lights being switched off in many cities of China. Since July, 16 of the 31 provinces, including the industrial belt of Guangdong, have implemented power cuts. These power cuts are likely to continue till March 2022. But don't forget, winter is coming and there will be a need for power. With the skyrocketing price of coal, factories have been forced to shut down or reduce output. Therefore, this has disrupted the supply chains of many a country. Result: unemployment, falling income, rising dissatisfaction. On the other hand, China faces not just water security issues but food security issues. While the Yellow and the Yangtze plains are very fertile, the population is huge. It came onto a brainwave and got Africa as the plains and granary of China. It has acquired large tracts of land and areas across Africa. Today, Africa is pushing back, and China is facing blockade or the fears of blockade as far as South China Sea is concerned. Water in China is an important asset. The major source of water is Tibet. The Tibet feeds all major rivers, Yellow River, Yangtze River, you name it, all of them. Therefore, China has dammed every river. It is probably the most dammed country in the world. 98,000 and more dams. However, these dams have not been able to control the massive floods that have happened in this year. Even the Three Gorges Dam faced threat this time from due to flooding. Control of water is a major goal, and therefore China cannot afford independent Tibet. It has to control Tibet and control Tibetans. Therefore, the next Dalai Lama. With this as the internal situation, you can imagine Chinese suffer from paranoia. This paranoia exhibits itself across all its actions in the external domain. It wants to project power. It wants to show what a solid power it is. Therefore, it demands compliance. It uses all its weapons at its disposal, from economy to trade, from diplomacy to military. It does not want a threat to the achievement of the Centennial Goals and Xi Jingpin's vision of common prosperity and regeneration. Securing uninterrupted growth is important. So therefore, let's take a look at the external situation with this as a background. Look at Chinese and how they use their economy. They've used BRI as a checkbook diplomacy. In other words, to be able to control nations across the globe. It had provided debt to 138 countries. Over $1 trillion of debt has been provided for access and power. In other words, it is colonization by the debt trap diplomacy. It has been cornering all types of resources from lithium to oil, and is greedy, hungry for more. It has not stopped itself from using trade as a weapon. Whether it was stoppage of wine and meat imports from Australia and New Zealand, because they dared to ask what was the origin of the Wuhan virus, or holding up Indian ships in Chinese ports on the flimsiest of reasons, denial of rare earths to Japan, US, or weaponization of the supply chain. They did not fight shy of stopping supplies of PPE kits, gloves, masks, and vaccines. It uses coercive diplomacy to be able to run through other countries, insists on the one China policy, that anyone who dares to recognize or have any trade or any relation with Taiwan is blacklisted. Its cartographic aggression knows no bounds. It has undermined virtually all global institutions. The WHO does not dare to call its bluff. Knowing fully well the Wuhan virus originated in Wuhan, it has done nothing. The United Nations has yet to discuss the global pandemic. Chinese nationals have been heading many UN organizations. It has weaponized its own contribution, actually minuscule contribution when you compare it with the US, to get undue advantage to itself. China has invested over $1 trillion in 5G. Not surprising, over 60% of its patents of 5G are held by Chinese companies, especially Huawei. It has got leadership in artificial intelligence, data processing, telecom, biotechnology, drones, and is weaponizing this leadership. It tested a hypersonic missile recently in August, and when it was discovered, they said, no, it is not a hypersonic missile. This was a space vehicle. We are not doing anything. We are all very peaceful people. It has claimed to have developed the first sixth-generation military aircraft and is today the owner of the largest navy in numbers in the world. It is fast approaching the capabilities of the United States in missile and space technologies. In other words, it is showing itself as a leader and a strong contender for global leadership. Taiwan deserves a very special mention here. Taiwan is the ultimate prize as far as China is concerned. Taiwan is the main barrier that holds back the PLA Navy from aggressively moving out into the South China Sea and the Pacific. Taiwan is an unsinkable aircraft carrier that keeps China on tenterhooks. It is just 80 kilometers from the mainland of China. Therefore, China has sent in regular intrusions into the airspace of Taiwan to tire out the defenses. There is an intrusion virtually every day. Over 750 sorties have been carried out in the last 12 months alone. In other words, it's trying to use the dictum of cry wolf to tire out Taiwan defenses. One of the largest incursions that happened had 144 aircraft, which included 36 J-15 fighters, 12 H-6 nuclear-capable strategic bombers. It conducted amphibious drills across the Taiwan Straits in the Fujian province. It's just across the strait as far as Taiwan is concerned. It passed a law recently that requires every ship to be able to carry military transport and be made available to the Chinese military. In other words, it has found its troop carriers in case it decides to do an amphibious operation across the strait. Cyber attacks on Taiwan are on the increase, and hold your breath, 20 to 40 million cyber attacks were done in the last 1 month alone. Taiwan has obviously responded. It has responded by increasing its military spending to $8 billion this year and is likely to hit $15 billion by 2025. China seems to have a four-pronged strategy as far as Taiwan is concerned. One, absolutely tire them out, Taiwan air defenses, by repeated large-scale intrusions. It has 40 air bases to target Taiwan. It wants to blockade Taiwan using the PLA Navy and cyber attacks and prevent supplies from reaching Taiwan. This plan is open to a challenge by the United States and possibly the Quad. It wants to prevent the United States by denying area and targeting the US Pacific Fleet, especially the large aircraft carrier and the carrier battle groups. Therefore, the Dongfeng 21D missile of a range of approximately 3,500 kilometers fired in salvos against them. These missiles are called aircraft carrier busters. The US bases at Okinawa and Guam are targeted. The fourth strategy, of course, is an all out amphibious attack, and it has been practicing this. It has probably been emboldened by the rise, or actually the fall, of Joe Biden after the Afghan fiasco, and feels that probably Joe Biden is not going to do anything much. It calls its military moves necessary and just. No wonders Taiwan and the rest of the Asia Pac countries are resisting any such move by China. We spoke about how trade in commerce is important for China and its people. South China Sea, therefore, is most important. Control of South China Sea is the cornerstone as far as external policy is concerned. Over $3.4 trillion of global trade passes through the South China Sea. This is approximately 1/3 of the global maritime trade. It has potentially significant but unexplored oil and gas reserves. Some estimate it to be about $11 billion of oil and $190 trillion of gas. South China Sea is home to among the world's best fishing grounds. Therefore, China wants to control this and has come up with a brilliant claim of the 9-dash line. Has built artificial islands to substantiate its claim and uses its fishing fleet to become a de facto occupying force, whether it be in the Mischief Reef or the Senkaku Islands. No wonder there are others who do a major pushback. China has 26,000 kilometers of border. This includes 3,500 kilometers with India. It has a border disputes with virtually every of its neighbor. There are details in my previous video. You'll find the link in the description box. Many of these countries have accepted Chinese domination. However, India is one which has pushed back and pushed back greatly. Therefore, very recently, China came out with a new border law. This law will come into force on the 1st of January 2022. It gives wide-ranging powers to the PLA army to manage borders, especially to ramp up infrastructure and develop dual-use border villages. Across the border in India, these are called well-off societies. These border villages will house police, military, paramilitary, and other personnel. Also house weapons, warehouses, and ammunition dumps. Is this a way to push the envelope and indulge in land grab? Is this the way to be able to project that civilians are there, and therefore if somebody retaliates, they'll say, you have killed our civilians? Will it give legitimacy in the land grab attempts of China? Time will tell. So you can see, disputes are China's calling card. China lives by disputes and does what is called as a salami slicing. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and project a peaceful, benign presence. So why has China done all of this now? Why now of all the times? Is it because China is feeling threatened internally and therefore is lashing out externally in a way trying to subdue its impatient people and showing a superordinate goal of external aggression? Or does Xi Jinping and the Communist Party fear for their position and go on with responding with more reprisals and purges? My view, it's all of them. The internal crisis is definitely threatening Xi Jinping as well as the Communist Party. On the other hand, China is sensing an opportunity, and this window of opportunity seems to be closing quite quickly. The state, don't forget, the situation in the world today is the status of United States has changed, especially after the withdrawal from Afghanistan. The pandemic has forced almost all the countries in the globe to rethink about their own well being and focus on combating it. Soft diplomacy by the use of vaccines and medical supplies is something China thought would be able to paper over whatever aggressive moves it makes. The Communist Party of China and Xi Jinping himself are today more willing to take risks than China ever was or its any predecessors were. There is this lure of the biggest prize, Taiwan. It did not anticipate the global pushback. Whether it was Quad, and Quad very quickly grew from seafoam, as the Chinese called it, to today almost a military understanding. AUKUS has happened. Taiwan is upping the ante and getting into weapons in a large scale. There are already indications that US has come out unequivocally in favor or in support of Taiwan. Japan has shed all its hesitancy of the past and is now developing a modern, capable army, navy, and air force. Even the Philippines is flexing its muscles and is almost on the verge of buying BrahMos batteries to be able to guard its boundaries. China is troubled from within. However, will China be able to match the aspirations of its people and deliver on the Centennial Goals? Will it be able to pull wool over their eyes and show external aggression to gain their confidence and support? What will happen to the Chinese minorities, especially the restive minorities, the Muslims and the Tibetans? How will China manage to come out of its financial mess, which has seen no major oversight, unlike the other countries globally? Will the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping get over their fears and be able to come to terms with the global changing reality? Or will Xi Jinping let his personal ambitions overtake him? On the other hand, will the US find the gumption to call out Chinese hegemony in clear, uncertain terms and draw red lines? Will Quad move on to become an Asian NATO? Will there be a Quad Plus or a Quad Plus Plus? Or, as many people say, AUKUS itself is a Quad Plus. Will there be, or rather, there is already a redesign of the global supply chains to reduce the dependence on China. Today, China accounts for 20% of global supply chains. However, India, Vietnam, and other countries are stepping to the plate and redoubling their efforts to challenge this. Many countries are already rethinking on their responses, especially to the One China policy. Will India take baby steps and recognize the Tibetan government in exile? Will there be a restructuring of global institutions, especially the United Nations, the WHO, IMF, and others? Will the world like to play or dare to play a role in the internal breakup of China, much like the Soviet Union? India, on the other hand, has a lot at stake. It is the largest country after China in Asia and the only one globally today which has stood up to it in the year 2020. It's the only one that can threaten its hegemonistic designs. China will use all its means at its disposal to destabilize India. We are seeing many of this happening with many people within our own society behaving like traitors. There are fingers that point to China when it comes to use of Islamic radicals and fundamentalists to foster a war of narratives in China. My dear friends, the game is on, and we in India are in the thick of it. So, where do we go from here? We continue to live, dear friends, in very interesting times. If you approve of the video, please do leave a like and please do comment. Your comments motivate me greatly. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so, and press the bell icon to be notified of all new videos. Please feel free to share this video to all your friends. I look forward, as always, to your continued support and your suggestions. Till next time, Jai Hind.